Welcome to the podcast, everybody. I've got my Deadpool sweatshirt and my 6-day scruff. You know it's going to be a good one.
Let's go.
So, first topic, shame. I want to discuss. I'm going to let this one flow because there was a jumping off point, but I want to see what comes up. I've been thinking a lot about shame lately. I've been experiencing a lot, I would say, for the last 8 months-ish, maybe 6, since one of our journeys, where the first time that I experienced a deep sense of shame came up in our men's journey together.
Yeah.
And it has been very illuminating, and I feel very lucky, and it's been an incredible gift to get in contact with that.
Gotcha. Is shame like when Cersei walked through the city of... Is that what it feels like?
Didn't come up for me.
The Game of Thrones moment?
It for me, it felt like in that journey, like I wanted to get out of my own skin. I felt disgusting inside of my own skin. It was an inescapable sense of self-disgust is what I felt like. And it was a somatic feeling of wanting, you get like mud or poop on you. You're like trying to get it off. It was trying to get me off of me is what it felt like, which is a wildly uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah.
And it's been...
You should be ashamed. That's really gross, dude.
It is gross. It speaking of people who can't hold space for shame, no, that was one of the things that came up for me about it was I'm now seeing it not just in my life, but I don't think projecting, am aware of other people's shame in a way that I wasn't before. The way that I watch people deftly navigate away from certain topics of conversation. The way that I watch people laugh when they're hurt. I feel like I've seen it everywhere, and some of that is my own awareness of it, but I do think I'm cueing into it in the world as well.
Yeah.
So this is going on in me. One of the concrete things that I saw, which I'll just briefly tell, because it's really not important in and of itself, is there was a clip of an ex-girlfriend of Tristan Tate on a podcast with Destiny and another guy, like the day that the Tates were released from prison for house arrest. And the first 15 minutes of the clip, she doesn't say a word. Everyone gives their opinion on Tristan and Andrew, good guys, bad guys. I think, I didn't. Are they guilty? Are they? And she's very quiet. And he says, well, why don't you dated him. And she's like very reluctant to speak, starts to open up. And I watched, due to the podcast format, I'm sure in part, but also because I don't think people know how to handle shame. I watched that shame get collapsed upon in a way that it gets shut down, I think, often in society. So some of the things that happened were, as she started talking, she was like, she started to like get teary-eyed and sad that she could have been so stupid to have fallen for this. And what people do and what happened in this podcast, which I'm not trying to pick on him specifically, I think it happens all the time. He said, oh no, but that's so, like, everyone falls for that. That's so, like, they were not falls for that, but like they were rich and handsome. You can't beat yourself up for that. And the phrase, literally, I wouldn't feel ashamed for that. So think about what that phrase is. I wouldn't feel shame for that is unintentionally a mechanism to shame that shames people for the shame that they are experiencing in the moment. Well, I wouldn't feel shame for that. It's like, well, what the fuck is wrong with me? Because she was clearly in deep shame about it, and she was willing to share on this podcast, but the format of it and the, I think, emotional space of the other people was not such that was invited out of her. And it was sad for me to see, and I think I can relate to being ready to unload that and being told no energetically, while verbally it was like, this is going to feel really good to get off your chest, was said to her a number of times. It's like, you told her you was going to get it off her chest, and then she didn't get it off her chest. And then she started to, and you said, I wouldn't feel like that. Don't feel like that. You're wrong for feeling like that, and you shouldn't. Let me tell you all the logical ways that you shouldn't have shame right now.
Yeah.
And I was upset in watching the clip. I think it probably personally triggered experiences in my own life as well. But if you want to hop in at any point, there's
I'm
ways
listening. I'm letting you build the story. Yeah. Where are you feeling? Because I saw a number of things. I watched the clip prior.
Mm-hmm.
that he did that were subtle, and I think it was the wrong format. And I say that because I didn't think this would be a place you could get some support. And, you know, to our podcast the day of Tristan released, I think this is important for me to be like, you were there to be used. Your story felt like you were there to be used. And they got what they wanted, which was like a sound bite out of you saying some emotional stuff of Tristan Tate. What was interesting to me is that she took accountability for all of her actions. She said, you know, I was dumb and I was 21 and I was interested in him because he was powerful and rich, and we were in Miami, and so that was attractive to me. And he said things that made me more attractive that I don't know exactly what was said, so I'm not going to try to say them. And we dated for a little while, and then I found out that he was dating multiple people in different cities, and then I was, like you said, she said, I was disgusted with myself, and we broke it up shortly after that, and that really hurt. And then the guy and the other panels took it to a societal level about like, yeah, thank you for sharing, you know, but like male and female dynamics, that's what's really matters, because like men lie, women lie, you know, like, and so he told you some stuff with his mouth that aren't true, and you probably were wearing makeup and heels at the time. And it became a heady conversation.
Yeah.
And so when I watched that, you told me to watch this clip and tell me what you think. What I thought was like, you went to the wrong place. Like, you weren't going to get emotional support there. They were going to use you from the moment you entered that stage. And brave of you, you said this to me, that also I didn't connect, which is like, how fucking brave of her to try to come give a nuanced discussion on a guy she formerly dated, and she didn't condemn nor say that he was a saint. She wanted to give like her personal experience. So those are some of my thoughts that came up in rethinking it.
Yes, I appreciate that. I think there were two things. One, you're totally right, is to people, it is very tough when you try to open up after a long time and you choose an audience that can't handle it. Yeah. Because that can like re-trigger you to not trust people for an extended period of time, and that was not the right environment. I was also I was bothered by the fact that he had reiterated in this podcast a number of times, you need to get this off your chest. This is going to feel really good to get off your chest. And my honest opinion is he didn't really think at all about what was good for her. He was disinterested. Talking at all negatively about Tristan Tate, if you dated him, is going to invite internet trolls in, which he expressed had been really hard for her. When she did get to the part that might be healing, which was to be seen, he stopped. And I was really frustrated, and again, I'm sure that this triggers something in me. While having an understanding that this is not the format for it or whatever, the kind words that he said to her to get what he wanted out of her without offering space back, which was what she needed clearly. Like, he was very in tune with what was good for him, which is the clip from my vantage point, and was very disconnected with what would be good for her. And then ironed over, this is good, and then fist bumped her at the end, really good. That's going to be great. You're going to enjoy this so much. It's like, you think she's going to like the internet trolls? You think that 2 seconds of catharsis is deeply healing? Like, yeah. And maybe it is compared to never having said it at all, but it did not seem like he was connected at all to her needs. And I think that this is what happens, particularly with shame, is that I think people can only sit calmly in the presence of emotions that they know intimately and have felt inside of themselves. And so I think that guy probably, first, I'm not saying he's a bad person at all. If somebody was getting angry, he could sit, and be like, yo, we can contain this. And they're like, I'm just fucking pissed. And he would have probably more space for like anger or something like that. He would stop it at the point of violence. But my guess is that in his life, he is more intimately familiar, as most men are in America, with anger. And there's space for anger to be expressed, held, not made who you are, and not be told you're wrong for being angry. Yeah,
it's an interesting idea that in order to hold space for someone going through an emotion, that you might have to intimately have felt it.
Yes.
So you know the way in which to hold space, because it's probably different for each emotion.
And so as not to be afraid of it, because I know that what happens with emotions, and if you've ever been with someone when they're expressing their shame to you, is it is often tough for the listener to make eye contact, to stay present, to sit with them, because there is this feeling of like, I shouldn't look at this, whatever, that I think...
I said this off camera, because there's literally sometimes like looking down and they're like avoiding eye contact. And you're like, I want to do this person a favor as well, because they don't want to be seen in this, whatever's going into their body
and
going on in their body.
I think what people don't know, because they haven't connected with their own shame, is they also deeply want to be seen. So they're familiar with that half of the coin, which is they're looking down, but they're not listening to, if I shut up for 30 seconds, this person is going to spill their guts. You know what I mean? Like, so they see, oh, they're avoiding it. I'm going to do them the favor of avoiding eye contact and ejecting out of this for them. But because they don't know how shame works and how it feels, yes, there's a pulling away. But there is also I am sitting with you, gearing up to give you the big shit if you can handle it. And
dude, I'm scared.
Right now?
Scared of thinking of having to do that, yeah.
Yes. And I'm starting to have been more and deeper on both sides of it. Of the, I don't want to share, but the truth is when somebody's like, I can handle this, you're like, really? And then floodgates come out. As soon as someone isn't afraid of it, is like, I can sit.
Yeah.
I could sit while you glance down and be here and know that you want to share and speak with me, and you don't have to reassure me, and you don't have to rush, and I don't have to interject with, it's not your fault. Every 2 seconds, like I can sit with shame.
Yeah.
And I'm not moved away from you by it. Jesus, if people could do that for one another, and having the blessing of having had that experience on a handful of occasions for big shit, it's life-changing.
As a guy, it feels like an emotion that feels weak and that you don't want to have very often. To be ashamed, especially in front of people for things you've done, is just like not supported as a guy. I don't know if it's like more common in men to feel shame, or they're more avoidant than women of this emotion. But
yeah, I tend to think shame cuts
both ways
evenly for men and women. I understand anger, sadness is like, oh, Western society lets men get angry, doesn't let women get angry, doesn't let men get sad. When it comes to shame and self-loathing, I don't see space for anyone to really deeply experience that in the presence of someone else. I don't know. I don't know that my girlfriends have had it. My sister has had it. Like,
yeah,
I don't, who knows what they do when they go to the girls' bathroom. I always thought that there was like some secret society.
There's definitely a couch in there.
There's definitely couches.
I'll share the story I had told you right before going, because we were talking about shame. And as you get more comfortable with the emotion, I was like, have I felt shame? And I like rolled down my Rolodex of emotional times. And one of them that came up was when I was in 3rd grade. We were out on the recess yard, and a kid who brought the football to the recess yard was playing football, and he kept not saying hike and running for a touchdown and then telling people he scored. And after like 2 times of like kind of ruining the game, I was like, you can't play anymore if you're going to do that. He's like, it's my ball, I'll play. I was like, well, we need the ball, so we're going to play. And we played without him, and he ran away. And then in class, right after scoring about 45 touchdowns and having 300 yards, the teacher called me out of the room, and I went, uh-oh. And I went out of the classroom, Miss B, and she was a hard ass. She was really difficult. And the kid was standing there, and she goes, so this kid told me that in recess you didn't, and I just passed out. And like the overwhelming nature of like, I did something wrong. I've been caught.
Yeah.
My defenses, my body was literally like just eject, dissociate, blood pressure to the floor, to the roof.
Your heart stopped beating.
And it went, nope. And I just passed out, and I woke up in a wheelchair going to the nurse's office.
I remember that. I remember being told that's where Henry passed out.
Yes.
I remember.
Yeah.
And I never understood the story. Some kid had a football, and then Henry, I was like, I did not understand. I was 5 years older than you. That means I was in. If you were in third grade, that means
Imagine
I was in
being.
eighth
I had
grade.
known it was bad the moment that I had made him feel bad when he ran away.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to have fun at recess,
Yeah.
and I was hoping that it breezed past, and I felt so ashamed that I had done that to him, and then to be caught by the teacher, and then him there and him standing there, just stopped my heart. Literally, just I ejected from life.
I mean, what's crazy is like it's like your spirit is just pushed out of your body, and you're just like, nope.
Nope. And then I woke up and had the greatest day ever. My mom picked me up. We went and got McDonald's. She's like, you don't seem sick. I was like, I was really sick earlier. I was really sick. I needed to get out of here.
And this is,
And then I found $20.
This is the lack of understanding. Is you don't seem sick. Is like, kids don't just pass out. Like, what are you?
I was ashamed to tell her the story of how.
Yes.
Literally, then I'd have to tell her, and what? I'm going to pass out again for what?
So this is another thing that I've seen is emotions compound and build, but shame has this really complex stacking pattern of you do something you're not ashamed of, then you cover it up and don't share about it. Then you lie about it. Then you build a life based around that thing not being true. And it gets like exponentially, it can feel like more and more difficult to tear down and to get back to it, because it's not just that event. It's that event and a cascade of other things that you are ashamed of having lived farther and farther away from authenticity. And I have experienced that. It's tough to describe when you're just like, okay, if I go right, I get around this one, but then I slam into this. If I go it was like a maze, a psychedelic puzzle that was so challenging. And you don't get through it. I didn't get through it with my head.
No.
I got through it by suffering.
I got through it by making a rule, never tell anyone about that story for a long time till I could confront it. I also made a rule that I would never, ever kick someone out of that game again. I started just like hardcore rules around the situation to not experience that again.
That's a good point, which is I think that, there's these, share one, which we also talked about, but I will say when I told this to you, which was remarkable, you knew exactly what I was talking about, and you're 5 years younger than me.
Yeah.
This is how powerful this shit is that we've never talked about it since.
I think I had before you share vicarious.
It was palpable. This is the thing. Kids know this shit.
Yeah.
And then they're told, not a big deal, get over it. And it's like, okay. And then, but guess what? That doesn't go away. Like there's a wisdom to this stuff.
Yeah.
Driving in the car with a cousin that I looked up to. And this was repeated. By repeated, I mean 5, 6 times. There'd be a song on the radio. Hey, I'd be singing the song. Hey, who sings this song? And I looked up to the cousin. I was so excited. And I would scramble my brain and hope that I could find this
Avril
for
Lavigne.
them, that I could find the person. And there was such a rush. And I did. This is by this band that I knew and I liked. I would say, Hanson or Green Day or Avril Lavigne. And he would say, good, let's keep it that way. And this happened several times. The time that sticks with me was probably the 5th or 6th time.
I feel like the color in my face draining, you know what I mean? Like going white and
Destruction.
yeah.
I mean, I think this is the thing with part of what's difficult about shame is that what happened wasn't a big deal.
No.
Nobody hit me. Nobody touched me. It was a comment. It was this. The inner experience is of soul destruction, of the universe just being collapsed on you, of utter and stark pain. And
slow it down. Yeah, slow it down. So first you're excited.
So first I was anyway. I was excited.
I think
about
it's important because I think you ended on shame, but I think what happened was high excitement to.
I'm so excited to love and connect with you.
Yes,
and to show you that I'm lovable and that I can offer you something. I know the answer to this song. Let's keep it that way. Total reversal. I don't care who sings this song. Your singing voice sucks. You are bothering me. And
first emotion goes.
The crushing fall of that was, I'm sure it affects my singing to this day. And I think a lot of people singing is like one of the things that they have been told, don't do it. It's bad. And
Yeah.
it's challenging because I was thinking about this. I struggle so much to, like, I'm not a good singer myself. It fucking infuriates me when I hear bad singers sing. And I'm like, and I thought about this because this came up in a breathwork. It's like, holy shit, is this mine? Is this my ears that are upsetting me? Or is this my shame getting triggered? And because what arises is me when I hear bad singing is, and I luckily I can contain my mouth for most of the times, but I get so fucking angry when I hear bad. It is so disruptive to my life when I hear bad singing. It is, yeah, I hate it. And so this is one of the things, this was that I was unpacking and occurred, I realized, in a number of subtle ways over my childhood, particularly with this person. And one of them was, which girls do you think are cute in your class? And I pointed to those girls are ugly. And just like I have felt psychedelically them disappear from my vision. Like as I got disconnected from what I was attracted to. And I remember for the rest of school, the one girl like blossomed and became even more attractive. And by senior year was considered one of the more attractive. This is in first grade, became one of the more attractive girls. And everybody was on the boat. And she's ugly. Not her. And I probably said the same exact thing that he did.
You're positive it's tied back to this moment where...
Positive is unimportant. Here's what I can tell you. It was one of the first girls I ever had a crush on. I immediately stopped having a crush on her
after
and thought she was disgusting for the rest. Yeah. Okay,
never mind. Positive is stupid.
Yes. And I look back and it's like, yeah, of course she was attractive. Like this was obvious. And so that I am reconstituting and seeing the carnage of these subtle things in my life, and like without needing to put that person in jail or indict them, or he was 5 or 6 years older than me. I'm sure somebody had done that to him. It's unimportant that there is a perpetrator in this, I think. Because one of the things that shame is ashamed of constantly is, well, if I feel this bad, then that must mean somebody needs to be punished this bad. Because this is, again, the cycle of shame is and I saw this happen in the Tristan Tate interview, which is there was not space for Tristan Tate to be like innocent of the charges against him in Romania, which maybe
Andrew or Tristan?
Tristan. They're both being charged.
Okay.
There was not, like, this guy likes them and doesn't think they should go to jail. And there was not space for her feelings about possibly being manipulated by this guy who has confessed to manipulating very clearly in his courses.
Yeah.
It's like really not up for discussion. For that to be a deeply wounding and hurtful experience for her, and possibly for him not to have committed the criminal charges that are levied against him, to not need to go to jail. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's not enough space for this guy to like him and him to have done something that wounded her so deeply. And yeah, we tend to think that this is one of the tough things, is that door just rang. Sorry, guys. That thought was interrupted. I apologize if it was going somewhere you're interested in, because I don't remember anymore.
It's gone.
There's one other thing that happened that I felt it on. Well, there's a bunch of other times that it came up. I don't know if it's interesting for people. One of the shames that came up for me is, people are going to point out in a shallow way, but like an inability to listen, which, of course, on the podcast I can interrupt and get excited about what I have to say and not listen. That is true. But it was a more foundational inability to listen, which I sort of told you about the other day. We have a number of people in the house on any given day, and one of the people in the house came in like a rain cloud and was hurting, and didn't immediately say or ask her, but was clearly disconnected. And I was doing work like I always do at that time of day. That is like my work time, and then I do my this time, and then to this, and then maybe at the end of the day there's time for conversation. But like, that was just a sub routine that was totally programmed into me. And then I did breath work later in that day, and I was like, oh my God, I am so stuck so often on what time I think it is. I think it's work time. I think it's time to succeed. I think this is time for practice. I think this is time for success. And there's a much more profound possible wisdom. And I was like, fuck, I'm ashamed of how far I've been away from the deep wisdom that I carry about what time it is, which is not just go to whoever's screaming and hurting. It's like so much deeper than that. But I knew at this time it was go to this person and be with them, whether that's a hug or a thing or a check-in that they can reject, because it's not like execute healing plan A. It was just, this is where you are being called right now. And turning down the call is something that I'm ashamed of. And I've felt that at various times in my life. Being deaf to it, being locked in to my own thing that I think is better than that.
I think that's profound, the timing of things, because I was also here that day. I was like, I can do this later.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing that comes up for me is like, I don't have the space right now for this. And so like I relegated it to later because I definitely didn't have the space at that moment. And I don't know what came first, whether it was like there's times to have deeper conversations about what's going on with their day or your day. But yeah, the listening part was like, not time to listen.
Yeah. Well, what I felt, and this is what is so challenging that I'm trying to let happen, and this is, again, tremendous amounts of shame for me around this. Uncomfortable soul, skin itching levels of shame is, I know what it feels like to have, I can only use the word spirit enter me and take me and act through me and make me incredibly loving and wise and spacious. I feel that, and I feel it start to occur in me often. And it makes me cry, or it makes me do something I'm ashamed of, like give someone a hug, or it doesn't broker half-assed attempts. It's not, and it takes no effort. It's like, this is not about creating space or pushing your elbows out to try to, okay, I'm ready to listen. It's just like, it moves through me and it moves me, and I am shockingly infinitely spacious in how I can show up for people when I let it take over.
Yeah. And I'm super proud of those moments when you do that or someone does that, which is like actually themselves showing up.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, as you were saying that, proud that you were saying it in the way you were with an emotional tie to the reality. And then like, I wonder if he's ashamed because he's been told when he sings or when he shows up as himself, it's painful.
Felt like you were talking about you, honestly, to a degree.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I actually was thinking about you singing in the car.
Yeah.
Which is like a joyful moment of childhood crashing down.
I don't know the exact historical moment. And honestly, maybe it's important, maybe it's not. I do feel the near constant call to like get back into the flow, to sit back in.
I guess my question is, why when you get the call, you're stopped?
I'll give you another one that, again, will illustrate the example. It's a lot of it is like, I will be brought to tears, not always sad tears, but moving, loving, connected, starstruck, miraculous tears of just like perfection. I don't like this one, but I will share because I'm practicing. Cody Lee, who we listened to the other day.
Who?
Cody Lee is the autistic singer on America's Got Talent. And we turned it on, or I turned it on. And if you haven't heard him, he's very autistic, and to the degree of so disconnected that it's like, how old are you? 22. You know what I mean? It's like, there's like this processing and this seeming level of difficulty with words and that sort of thing. I think he might be blind as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he sits down at the piano, and it's perfect connection with the piano and the song. And you were like, I don't know if he's singing with soul. I was like, you're not listening. Like, you are, what I felt at that moment was that you are deflecting the intensity of this experience by questioning his technical chops, or if he is playing with soul or whatever it is. Because to witness him openly is astounding and miraculous and will fucking rock your world. And again, they're allowing for different tastes in music as well, which is, if it doesn't, I'm not saying that you're a liar.
Yeah.
But being in the room with you, I could feel with you and with me, the uncomfortable laughter, it's just like, dude, this guy, all the ways in which we interject to stop the honest flow of emotion coming through.
Yes.
Here's a comment, here's a laugh, here's a thing. Let me check my phone. It's just like, it's too much to face squarely.
I'm ashamed. I did not accept Cody into my heart.
I cannot.
He's overwhelming.
Yeah. And that's okay. And I think these, how do people joke? And it's a way to lift the tension, which is totally fine. I appreciate it. And my wisdom comes when I stop that, when I can sit in it for longer. And I'm better at everything when I'm in that space. It's frustrating. And I'm getting tired of trying to operate from my head to concoct a plan that is better than what would spontaneously, without control, move through me. And it is, I'm 35, and I think that, I don't know if this happens for everybody, but it tends to happen later in your life. Living out of my head is, I don't want to in the same way that I have. I've felt I am in the same push-pull movement that people have when they're in shame, where they're looking down, but they're trying to open up. That's where I feel like I'm at in my life, which is simultaneously don't stop, but hanging in there.
Yeah, I feel a strong resistance to doing that now and in my life.
Yeah.
The resistance is like, doesn't feel powerful to live within that.
Yeah.
Yet I've had experiences where I feel incredibly creative and open. While feeling that connected to, for where it comes to me, it's like my intuition.
Yes. I know that very well. The weakness, and again, I think unfortunately, I could tie it together logically, which is tears have equaled weakness in my life. But it's a couple of things for me. Is one, it feels weak, but two, it also, I think perhaps more profoundly, feels out of my control. And if when I let go into it, it's like, what am I going to do? And there's some like background psychedelic feels like, am I going to take my pants off and like just fucking run around the world and be like, but it's, I'm sure that people have kids acted from that place and been chastised. And I'm sure that there's discernment that comes in as an adult in sinking into when are you really in that flow, aware and conscious of other people as well, which I think could be a challenge for children. You know what I mean? Like they're in the zone of free expression, but like they crack their brother on the head with the strongest force that they could possibly muster. It's like there is an adult way to be conscious of yourself and self-expressed and of other people. And I think it's, don't do that, bad boy. Like, well, that was me acting out of my spirit, which was just like, I will kill you.
Yeah.
I just have tiny little arms, so I don't have the capacity to.
Yeah.
But you see kids, they'll try to kill each other. They just
throw
can't.
each other around.
And I'll give you one more thing that came up. These are all from breathwork, by the way. Evan's gonna hopefully do a course soon. He's got a second breath work. He's developing them. They're getting, in my opinion, better even than the first in terms of ease of accessing and then depth that I'm able to go to with simple but profound changes to the structure and music, which is really cool. There's like science isn't the right word, but there's an art and a science to the right breathwork track for the right amount of people. And we're like, it's fun to experiment with him on what that is.
Yeah. One thing that I keep getting stuck on, I wonder if this is personal, is like the historical, how it goes down consecutively or historically with, I'm thinking of like a kid acting out of total freedom, and then the parent coming in and chastising, and then them learning rules, and them having then as a person, me included, as a human on the planet Earth, being my own disciplinarian, and that voice, that chastising voice.
I think you said it, which is psychoanalysis. This is what people tend to think, is that shame is the child's way of internalizing the badness that the parent has implied or
the
said.
World,
or and it is a defense mechanism against the more powerful, omnipotent parent thinking you're bad. So rather than being the bad boy who hit your sister, you internalize that bad person, become a self-police officer, which creates the behavioral outcome that your parent wants, but when that energy arises in you, there's not enough subtlety. And also, I don't know that there ever can be to teach a child the subtlety of, you are not bad, but this behavior is not what we do. Like there's degrees to which you can help them not internalize too much shame. But I think it's almost an inevitability of being human that there's this sense that, when mom pushes you off when you're breastfeeding, it's like, I'm bad, she must hate me. Like that's it. Like it's an inevitability that something will happen, and children are internalizing machines. It's weird.
They're sponges.
They're sponges, but they also, like, in some ways think that they're God, like that they did everything. It's like it's a control move, which is like, okay, I have no control over life. This is classic self-help, except to assume that it's all my fault. That's the only control that I can possibly exert over the world, not knowing how much control I have, is just to say it's all on me. So when an infant does that, it's pathological, but it's necessary for, it's the best that they can do, is maybe if I cried a little bit less, maybe if I cried a little bit louder, maybe if I never expressed anger. And that's why you have, which always concerns me, and I'm not like, oh, he's such a good baby, he never makes a fuss. I hear that and I go, fuck. Like, I hope that that's not, he made a fuss for the first little bit and very quickly learned that doesn't work. And I know, my girlfriend is the perfect little child who never had an issue, and there were issues. And
seems
it
like
was, and the memories of, there was an issue, and that I was abandoned when there was an issue.
When you said God, it flashed. I remember growing up thinking like, God doesn't really make sense. Like, have you met my parents? They're God. They decide me when I can eat, do anything. If I can have a sleepover, Friday, Saturday, I have to come home at a certain time. It's like that idea of God never makes sense. And then now, as an adult, having someone watching over you, both with love and being scared of that controlling, I understand how that can be another force of control over impulses. Now, as a human, as an older and adult, the pull towards religion that I did not feel as a kid.
Meaning?
Dude, as a kid, God made no sense. Dude in the sky that tells you what to do, like, it was so abstract. It didn't. Someone who tells me what to do lives in my house, and they are God.
Yeah.
My parents are God.
Mm-hmm. That's a psychological belief that I think is that a child's conception of God is mom and dad, which is then projected onto the universe. And the way that mom and dad are is projected onto the way the world is.
Yeah.
And it forms your most fundamental religion and ideology of, for me, it was like, God is bullshit. Like, not to say that mom and dad were awful, but it's like, God is a trick. God is like, it is for, and again, you can have different people that have different religions in the same family. So it's not just it's not meant to be a one-to-one equation to map it out, but I can very clearly see how my disconnection from them at various points in my childhood informed my relationship with religion.
Yeah.
What I'm grateful for is that I don't think I missed too much with the relationship with religion. One of the nice things could have been community, ritual, singing. That's a bummer. But I this is, again, deep shame around this because it's so fucking cliche. Connection with spirit, which I've recently felt and have denied my whole life. That's sort of what I talked about, that being moved by a spirit so far beyond me, so far beyond my present capacity and capabilities, is one, inexplicable with my current psychological understanding, with accepting spirit or God or whatever. And two, it happens less when I fight that God is fake or spirit is fake, and it happens more. I'm in my head a little bit. Let me tell you this. When I was in breath work, one of the things that I was struggling with is I was like, oh, that's my heart. It's like, that's not your heart. It's like, that's, it was like, this is spirit. And when I could embrace the word spirit is when I felt it take over. And then, which was scary, because again, this goes against a lot of what I believe. And I don't want you to think that because I don't, this is not a Christian or a Jew or any of this. It's like, there is a deeper level of this, which is understanding this is God moving through you. And I was like, that's deeply uncomfortable for me still. The truth is, it's not as deeply uncomfortable as I'm saying it is. It's remarkably comfortable for me to feel that and to acknowledge that.
I see the little change there.
Yeah, I just am
to say those words.
Yes, you can see it. This is that discomfort of shame that I'm experiencing around that. And I mean, you read it. There's a ton of things. Shame of alienation from God or that, and shame of the ways I haven't been because of the loss of that connection. Again, right now I'm a little bit disconnected, so I'm gonna leave it. But one thing that I'll say that has also helped, which has also come up in breathwork, and then if there's anything else you want to add, is this is the parents or God thing. I come back frequently, and it's been years. The first time I couldn't get into it at all. It was too much. It was too much pain. To sitting on the piano bench with Dad. The power of that experience for me is beyond what I am capable of describing. But the feeling, which I had and have lost to a degree, of him playing the low notes and the song. And me playing in the high notes is perhaps the most supported I have ever felt in my life. And the gift of that solid base is, I think it's, for me, one of the most powerful masculine expressions that there is, to let, I mean, it's a lot of things. I feel like simultaneously I get to play and I get to be heard, and I'm not, and I get to stand on this solid song and fuck around up here, and we're still making music, which was, I didn't know what the crashing on the notes, but it worked because he held down the bass, and that is the experience that I've had at my best, of like how much farther I can go and see on his shoulders. And our relationship was also fraught. And so I felt that support at many times ripped out from underneath me. Like he didn't want me to stand on his shoulders. Like it hurt him for me to get to play. Like it hurt him for me to succeed when he struggled, or like I was somehow hurting him in my high notes. And so I felt myself drift more towards the center of the keyboard, towards feeling less supported to go up there. And one of the things that, I mean, this is more profound than a single thing, but it connected back to me towards feeling so much more safe and comfortable as a struggling, starting entrepreneur financially, because the level of support, which, by the way, I had a tremendous amount of still as a kid, was like, I knew, and this is what allowed me to be an entrepreneur, you will never go hungry. You will never have to sleep outside. You will always have the basics of life taken care of. That was locked in. That part never got ripped away from me, ever. And so operating from, I've got no extra, but I won't die, was a very comfortable place for me to be very creative and very comfortable as a starting entrepreneur. And it was like the type of work that you have to do is like, I don't like this job, but I'm going to take it. Like, I don't like not sleeping on my Airbnb, but I'm going to take it. Like, that level of creativity and activity and what needs to be done in that middle of the keyboard level of support, very familiar, very comfortable for me. What is fucking uncomfortable that I'm trying to feel is a more robust level of support, which I have and is actually so much less comfortable for me. I have today better connections with men and friends and people in my life. I have more money. I have more support in every way. I have more resources. I have more, all different kinds. Like, my support system is much more robust, and I'm invited to play the top keys again. And it's hard for me to do that. It is hard for me to let go and do that. And I rush back to the middle of the keyboard because it's safe there. You can't rip the bottom out from under me. If I do the daily tasks of work and act like we need to earn money next month and act like D&D needs to be a success now in this iteration instead of in 5 years, because I can't accept fully that I actually have that amount of support, that I have so much more robust support that I am comfortable with, and then as a result, I make decisions to get rid of my support. I hand my money away. I do all different sorts of things, and not in a healthy way, though it sometimes is, charity and things of that nature. Not in a I'm so uncomfortable with this. I can't handle this level of support.
Yeah, a lot is coming up for me. Similar stories. My question, which is a personal one, so I'm going to ask it to you so you can tell me what I'm going through. Why is it so hard to incorporate that younger self with the support now? I feel like doing so is a loss. To give up like that special moment.
To give up
So I can say it in your story, which is like you're playing the high keys
Mm-hmm.
and he's got the bass notes held down and you're riffing up on top and there's nothing you can do wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You can only play.
Yeah.
Everything's good and you're supported. There's so much joy, safety, and connectedness and seenness. There must be. And you say you now play the middle notes, but it sounds like we play the middle notes solo. Which I don't know if you expressed, but it sounded like there was no bass notes going along with the middle note. Like
There are. The bass note is that I know. And again, the bass note is I'll never go hungry. I don't fear like that. I don't fear that there's not an absolute backstop, which is where I was with the beginning of entrepreneurship, was comfortable. It's like here's the base is I'm right there. I'm as low as I can get before I go hungry. And I know that's impossible. This is safe. There's nowhere to fall. Renting out my bedroom, it was safe, man. Like, worst case, I knew, and this was locked in from the love of mom and dad, I can go back to that house. I can get a meal 3 times a day. I can, like, there was a backstop that some people do not have. And so I was comfortable, just like, okay, I'm a note above this. I'm spending $900 a month on my rent in New York City. You know what I mean? And then, but at some point, it gets so far that to fall is, I think, scarier. And that, we talked about earlier, the experience of the lift of whose song is this to the fall of let's keep it that way. And it's kind of like avoiding that to get comfortable and happy and safe playing in the high notes.
Yeah, I'm jealous of people who play in the high notes
Mm-hmm.
because I want to. And I feel really similar to being like, I'll play slightly above where the fall won't be too much.
Yeah. I think for me, I know there's a tremendous amount of shame, and no one deserves to play the high notes is how I feel. It informs my political views. It informs it's not fair that some people play in this world and some people struggle and suffer. And I think, that is a political view that I sincerely suspect is a projection of my internal discomfort.
Who is the person that represents that for you? Someone who's just...
As I get more given to me by life, I feel less and less worthy and more wrong and more praying, hoping, waiting for something to take it away, but fearful that something will take it away at the same time. And I notice it in how I cue into what's going to happen with the dollar, what's going to happen. Like, I don't know, but something I graduated in the middle of a banking crisis. You know what I mean? Like, again, things could get worse than that, but like, I didn't care at all then. And I don't think it's a simple matter of I was young and brave back then. I do think it was also connected to, I think people want to get to where they feel they deserve to be. And I feel afraid that what I have, and this is the shame of it all, is I am unable to feel, here's the problem. I do have this level of support. The universe, my friends, the people around me, the things that I've done, the gratitude of the viewers.
Playing, you feel like you can play the high notes now and you hate yourself for it?
Here's the level of support that I have, and here's where I'm standing, because I'm too afraid to open up into that. And it's a shame. There's so much shame because it's like you're not even receiving the full gift that you have been giving. And this doesn't preclude. I know one of the things that happens is if you can receive the full gift, you can and will give back even more of yourself in an even more profound way. But rather than face that, I try to give at this middle level of I'm going to make content and I'm going to donate to charity a large sum and I'm going to, overpay my contractors and this sort of thing. And like, that's the level of giving that I'm like, do it. And it's like, if you could just feel the amount of gift given to you by your life, by the universe, and not be in such a rush to oh, well, I got to redistribute this and get it away from me. One, the internal experience would be, I feel ashamed letting, I don't deserve that, is what I feel.
Yeah,
too much
feels
struggling.
like there's a goddamn rule there.
I'm not allowed. Yes, I'm not allowed. There's too much suffering. There's too much struggling. You are not allowed to really receive this much. And again, this is the thing. What you resist persists. I do live in a fucking huge house, and I do have everything. And it's not like resisting the gift is helping me be a better person in a meaningful way. Yeah. It's like you're just not even enjoying it at the level that you have, and just flagellating yourself as you go. And it's like, oh well, you give it all away and move back into a thing. Great. Now you live in a tiny place, and you've shrunk your ability to impact. It's like. And now you feel safe. And I think that it's like, it's almost too good to be true, which is scary to think, no, you can receive all of this and give more, and receive more and give more, and receive more and give more. It's like that cycle feels too good to be true, unfair, undeserving of it. There needs to be 100 units that I take from other people, and we just have to find the right amount for, I have some, they have some, and my selfishness wants more, but my guilt wants less. And it's not that the pie grows.
Certainly not abundant.
Yes. So that's, but the answer I know is not in philosophy or thinking through it or cat tax percentages or no donations to charity at a certain level. It's at the piano. That's where it is for me, is can you do that? And that's where it is for me.
Last thing on that, you mentioned there's a time when you're allowed to do things. Mm-hmm. And it feels like you have definitely, me too, there's a time that you're allowed to play the high notes while someone holds down the bass. Mm-hmm. And it's not very long. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes. And that's, again, these are metaphors, but I've thought about this. I'll just be honest. I feel a tremendous fucking amount of shame for the gifts that I have. I could take 6 months off of everything, do nothing, and be fine. But I couldn't take 6 months off.
You wouldn't take 6 months off.
I can't take a Sunday off.
Yeah.
I can't take a bath off. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you're always
I can't take a massage off a lot of the time. Like, and again, I still like all of those things, but I can't even do that. And it's the shame of this being a first world problem, the shame of this. And I just share to be honest.
Rest, joy, those emotions are something to be earned, and there's a finite time around them, it feels like.
And it feels like it steals from those who have less is a huge thing that I really am feeling coming up right now. Like, I really feel...
Is it because you have siblings?
I think it's because people in my life told me that my joy took away from theirs.
That's what I'm basically asking. Is that there was...
No, I don't necessarily think so. I don't trace it back to that. I mean that some things in the world felt like pies, and some things are pies, and you can lose connection with the things that aren't pies, the things that grow as you receive more of them. Pies shrink as you receive more of it. The money shrinks as you receive more of it. But there are things in life and the world which is like the foundation behind the money, the place behind the pie, the thing that makes the person bake the pies. As you receive more, it grows more. Mm. And when you get stuck in the physical, how much pie is there? Yeah, me eating a big slice takes away from everybody else. But when you're in the where do pies come from at a deep level,
fucking hate those people.
Receiving more, I think, and I have seen, makes more, but it's such a scary thing to let go into. The level of you're fucking someone else, this is so bad, is strong.
Yeah. I just thought in the pie analogy, I said I fucking hate those people, excuse my language.
Oh, who eat the pie? Who
eat the pie and aren't connected to the, that don't care that it could possibly shrink, which bothers me. But the people who know, they're like, oh no, you don't understand, man. There's pie everywhere. I'm like, I am empowered in that sense. And I think of our friend Benji when he talks about just a more of abundance mindset around things that I had considered a thing of pie, and not necessarily is.
You did call out a thing, which maybe this is my head clicking in too strong, but it's like, I don't want to say, and I appreciate, like, this does not condone, or this is more subtle than just take as much as you can and get as much for you as you can, and that'll be wonderful for the world. It's not at all. It's not there's a pie, eat as much as you want because that's good for other people.
No, it's absolutely connected to
it's
the spirit, authenticity in yourself. Can't really get it with words.
Yeah, so those were some of the things that came up for me this week. Let me see if there's any more. Those were the big ones. So I'm working on it. I hope this. I purposely did this podcast different. I didn't write down any news stories, and the truth is, I'm going to try not to in the future. I'm going to try to do more what we did here. I don't know if it's going to be popular, but that's also part of the shame thing. Is like, I'm not trying to grow the podcast every week. I'm trying to give, and be, and exist, and receive at a higher level. And this podcast, we were talking about it, I think can be supportive of that goal, or it can stand in the way of that goal. And I'm down for it to be supportive of that goal. And that might be self-indulgent. I hope if you feel that that's the case, that you don't feel the need to watch or but if it is helpful, I do hope that you watch, and I hope you join our Patreon, where I'm going to talk about some of the concrete things that I learned, which this led to some learnings for sure, taking more space in what I've done. And this will be at the end, at the very least, an interesting record of either a descent into soft, womanly, non-masculine madness, and no yachts, and weak men making hard times, or it can look like something else, and we'll see over time.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you. Please join Patreon and check out our D&D if you want to see it. Episode 2 comes out in just a few days. Link in description. Peace.